All right, good to see everybody. Appreciate the invite back. I'm starting to feel like Steve Martin or Alec Baldwin guest hosting Saturday Night Live here, so I keep getting invited back. I like it. Before we get started, something I got to get off my chest now. I'm extremely loyal to our head coach, and I pride myself on being on the same page, but I think there's a little clarification that needs to be made. All right, I do know who Adele is. Okay. All right. So if there was a comment made that I don't know who she is, I do know who she is. I just couldn't tell you any of the songs that she sings. All right. So I want to make that perfectly clear. The meat of my musical bell curve is like mid 60s. It starts with about Louie Louie by the Kingsmen, all right, and it goes to about the mid to late 90s, all right. I remember One Headlight by the Wallflowers, and then I shut it down after that. So that anything between that, okay, I'm pretty decent. I can hold my own, but before or after, okay, you pretty much have to count me out. I bought a pair of jeans right around that same time that Wallflowers song came out, and I still have that pair of jeans. All right, I probably won't buy another pair. So if you're wondering how Adele even comes into the conversation, you know, when you're grinding through these long hours, long days, you know, you're deep into the season. Every week for our punt return unit, I try to come up with a theme for the week and then use some word association stuff that might help the guys remember what we're trying to execute on that given play. And usually the way my mind works, I've got a pretty good idea of what I want to call something for the week. And last week I was really struggling. It was late Tuesday night and I'm still scrambling. And then it hit me that Britney Spears is free, right? She's out there. She's back on the scene. So we went with Britney, and then I needed somebody else that was in kind of the same genre as Britney, so that's where Adele came from. And the big return we got in the game was actually a Britney call. So that's how we roll. All right, every week's got a different theme, and hopefully we get to a point where the guys, I think they're at a point where they look forward to that every week. But that doesn't take away from what was definitely a disappointing loss down there at Florida. And, you know, we win as a team and we lose as a team. And when I had an opportunity to talk to our guys on Sunday, I told them that, you know, whatever we did special teams wise down there might have been good, but it wasn't enough. And you know, we've got to be at our absolute best and absolutely reach our potential. And we did some good things in that game, but it wasn't enough. And we can still get a lot better, particularly in terms of just fundamentals and executing basic things. So it's still very much a work in progress. There's a lot of moving parts. Those moving parts seem to change a little bit every week. But that being said, we keep plowing ahead. We keep moving forward. There's no rest for the weary. We obviously have a big challenge coming in here, an exciting opportunity. These guys are excellent on special teams. It starts with their kick coverage, which is a top 5 or 6 rated unit in the country, and they've earned that. They can run, they can cover. They do a good job. They've got a good scheme. And they play with a lot of energy. They play with a lot of energy across all of their units. They had an outstanding punt returner last year. He graduates, and they just seem to reload another guy in there. They had a guy play early in the season. They replaced him. And the next guy, this guy number 3, Williams, people can't tackle him in a phone booth. So they have a lot of really good players there and present a lot of challenges. Their punter, I remember seeing him last year. I thought this guy was a forward on the basketball team when I first saw him, and he's been playing so long there. I think Johnny Majors recruited him. So we get to face him again, and he can really boom it. So that's just scratching the surface. They're a very good team in all three phases and present a lot of challenges. And so we're going to have a great rest of the week preparation-wise and be in position to do our job on Saturday night.
Pete, Josh Van's senior day this week. And in terms of him coming back, guy that maybe had a different role than maybe he envisioned, what's he meant to this special teams unit and your punt return unit especially? Yeah,
I've really enjoyed my time with Josh. We've gotten along well since day one. We've I think have a good respect for each other and a respect for each other's personalities, quirks, all that stuff. So we've just kind of connected, and I've enjoyed coaching him, and I've appreciated what he's brought to the table. He's stepped up and done a little bit more for us here recently. He played some gunner for us last week because, again, as we've talked about, we're a little bit stretched thin now from a depth standpoint. So I've had to ask some guys to step into some different roles and play some more reps, even if they're tired late in the game and so forth. But the biggest thing I would say was that coming out of last year, we really challenged Josh on the punt returning end to be more aggressive, to be more confident, to not be overzealous, but to try to give us an opportunity to make more plays back there and flip the field position versus just getting the ball back. And he's certainly stepped up to do that. And he's continued to make an impact as a receiver, maybe not in terms of the overall volume of catches, but he's made some important catches for us, some big catches. So I'm proud of him. I'm proud of how he's handled family stuff as well, and I think he's done a great job with that. And he's matured. His demeanor is more even keel, which is a good sign of his maturity. And I certainly hope he'll get a chance to play at the next level. A lot of the scouts that come through, especially the ones that are most thorough, most detailed, usually pop into my office, and that's one of the guys we usually talk about.
Pete, when you have a team like Tennessee that really has barely punted this year, where do you find areas as a special teams coordinator to kind of exploit the way that you guys have been able to this year?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When you evaluate each team, and this is where being a head coach for so long, I think helps me, that I always start looking at the big picture. And then where are we going to fit into the big picture? And so I'm always looking at the challenges that the offense and the defense might face, and then how does that impact us? And how should we approach our week in terms of our time commitment and how much you are investing in a certain unit? How could the game play out? You're always running that through your mind. How could this game play out? And what do we need to do to make an impact in the game? And there's obviously a lot of variables to that. And sometimes games don't play out at all the way you think they might. But you have to at least have a feel for that and sort of fall back on your experience and study not only the film but the statistics and so forth. And that sort of gives you a framework to approach the week.
Pete, I know we talk about Kai just about every week, but I mean, at this point, like, what is there left to say about Kai and sort of the season he's having and how well he is playing and sort of what he's been able to give you guys in that position?
Sure. Well, I would just say that the better the returners that you're going to face in any given week, the more onus that falls on the specialists to do their job. Let's go all the way back to the Kentucky win. I thought the unsung hero of that game was Mitch Jeter because he hit 5 or 6 touchbacks that night. Had he hit 3 or 4 returnable kicks to their kick returner, who was at that point one of the hottest guys in the nation, who knows how that game plays out. The same would be true with a guy like Kai. Can he go into a big game where you're challenging him to do certain things in terms of where he's got to put the ball and can he give you the kind of hang time and the kind of direction that you need so that your coverage unit, in this case punt coverage, has a chance to be successful.
You blocked a field goal on Saturday and then forced another bad snap. What goes into kind of a good field goal blocking unit? And then also, what's the theme this week for Tennessee with your punt return calls?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to tell. If you want to talk about the theme for Tennessee next week, we'll do that. We don't reveal those things in advance, right? It's like the family business. It stays in the family, but until the business is taken care of. But relative to the field goal block, first of all, I'll say this. So our defensive staff really does a fabulous job with that. I put a lot of studying in on the front end to that. I will, on Sunday and Monday, give them my recommendations about how to attack the opponent and so forth. But then once the week gets started, we're always doing field goal and what we call pride, our field goal block, at the same time. So I'll be down there with the field goal unit, and then it falls on those defensive coaches to make sure that they are coaching their guys. And starting with Clayton and everybody else, they do a fabulous job with that. It starts with effort, and one of the things that I'll always talk to our entire team about is when somebody turns on the video of South Carolina, if they're watching the first kickoff of the game, if they're watching the first PAT field goal block of the game, or they're watching the last one, they should see a fanatical type effort out of our guys. And Zach Pickens is a guy I look forward to seeing every day. And one of the things that I think speaks volumes about Zach Pickens is exactly that. It could be the last PAT of a game, up or down, and he's going to give tremendous effort on that unit. The next thing is attention to detail, because the difference in a 6-inch alignment, tighter or looser, understanding how that protection is going to play out is going to be the difference in getting one or not getting one. And so this was the second field goal that we've gotten since we've been here. Last year, MJ Webb got one against Texas A&M that was a little bit of a lower kick, and he got it on what we call the flight line of the ball, so an interior block. This is the first one that we got off the edge, which was really, really good to see. Cam Smith took a great alignment. He got a really good takeoff, and then essentially he wasted no movement, because if you waste any movement, if there's any dead space, that little bit of extra time to get to the block point is going to be the difference. And he was able to get there very efficiently. So that was really, really good to see, because coming out of last season, that edge rush, whether it's Cam Smith or Darius Rush or Marcellus Dial or any of our other guys that are put in that position, that was something that we really felt like we needed to get better at. And understanding what you need to do to be successful there. So that was a good step forward, and it was good to see Cam, for us as a team and for him personally, put something like that on film.
Now you're obviously more concerned with the team, but as far as your Broyles Award nomination being on that list, what does that mean to you personally to have a space on that list of guys? Yeah,
very, very humble, very grateful, and certainly nothing like that ever happens without the blessing of the head coach, the support of the head coach, and so I appreciate that, starting with Shane and right on down to Steve and everybody else. I used to tell my players all the time when I was a head coach that any sort of postseason awards, any of that, is always a direct reflection on the team and the program. And nobody's very interested in that stuff if you're a 2-win team, and if you haven't had success as a program, and in this case, success as a special teams unit. So it's more of a positive reflection on the program, on this team's success, on the progress we're making as a program here in year 2, the buy-in of our players to what we've been able to do special teams-wise this year, the support from Shane, which I've talked about for 2 years now, about the practice time and the meeting time and all those things that give you a chance to be successful. And then our staff, because I don't coach any of these units by myself. We just talked about field goal block a second ago, but on any given unit, we may be involving 3 or 4 of our other full-time coaches, maybe even 5 of our full-time coaches. And if those guys aren't interested and supportive and want to take pride in their little pod, whoever they're coaching, 1 or 2 or 3 guys on a given unit, none of it works. I've seen special teams coordinators be out there like a lone wolf while assistants stand on the sideline and have to coach 11 guys, and it's just not very effective. So the fact that we've got everybody from the full-time guys to, I mentioned Stanton Weber last week, our GAs do a great job, whether that's helping out on a certain unit or coaching the scout team, which is a huge deal. One of my mantras is the look is half the battle, right? So if you don't get a great replication of what you're expecting to see, it's really hard to be ready to execute well on a Saturday. So all of those things play a part in the eventual product that you put out there on the field.
With Mitch, he was obviously replacing a pretty good kicker around here, went through a position battle before the season. How would you describe the way he's handled things in the season that he's had this year?
He's handled it very well. He's obviously been very consistent with his field goals, but he's been more consistent in general, more consistent with his kickoffs. Obviously, the field goals have been awesome. You know, he started off the year with 2 50-plus yard field goals, and we've been able to keep it going. He's also bought into some situations where he could have kicked another field goal, and we elected to call a fake, right? We've had 2 fakes so far this year, and you know, he's a team player. He's with his kickoffs. He's tried very hard to understand what we're trying to do conceptually, how we're trying to attack an opponent's kickoff return, where he fits in the coverage. That's important too. So he's a team guy first and foremost, and then he's a very focused guy. When I come in to the special teams meeting in the morning, there's 3 guys that are always in there first, and it's Mitch Jeter, it's Nate Atkins, and it's Hank Manos. And Hank is one of our backups on our punt shield, an offensive lineman. I come in that first door right there, and I know those 3 guys will be sitting in their same chairs, and they are locked in, bright-eyed, ready to go. What do we need to do today? So I appreciate that. Okay, thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.